I'm just going to start off with a nice simple question for the panel, and then we can open up and you can ask your questions of them. Oh, I haven't said who I am, have I? Hi, I'm Abigail. I'm a professional. So here we have Carla, who did The Devil in the Room, Qian, who did Wastopia, Lauren, who did Creepypasta Salad, and Suraya, who did Don't Think of a Pink Elephant. Yeah, so I think just to start us off, it'd be really good to just really hear about how you came to these very dark and challenging subjects that you've all gone into. Yeah, and also I'm kind of interested, maybe twofold question, if you had any kind of pushback from any of your funders or stakeholders, execs or collaborators about the kind of subjects you were tackling, I suppose, maybe. Or you don't have to answer that. Carla, maybe start with you.
Hello. So yeah, I made the film as part of my master's, animation master's, and I also involved the Wellcome Trust, and I was having extremely bad sleep problems at the time. I was having sleep paralysis episodes a few times a week, really struggling with it at a time when I was supposed to be thinking up an idea for my graduation film. So it became kind of impossible to make a film about anything other than these things that were kind of bleeding into my days. Interestingly, Wellcome Trust gave me pretty much carte blanche, and they really liked the approach, which involved combining the science and the psychology and the more visceral responses. It was embedded in a much wider cross-disciplinary project. I had more pushback in a way from the animation course I was on, who I think found it a little confusing at the time, although they did support me. And I think my tutor might be here. Did Sylvie come? Is Sylvie here? Oh, she's not. Okay, good. Then I can get away with saying that. I also had a really amazing team, including my wonderful composer, Dominic, who is here tonight, and I just wanted to wave at him.
And did making this film help your sleep paralysis in any way?
Yeah, it did. It cured it. It was so weird. So I talked to people. I spent like a year talking to people about sleep paralysis, and I got completely obsessed. And I was having sleep paralysis like every night, and some days. And I also learned how to like bring it about. So I learned how to kind of hypnotize myself into a sleep paralysis state. And this went on for maybe a month after the film was complete. And I started having sleep paralysis episodes where I'd fall asleep and I would be in the room that's in the film that the sleeping person is in. So all those projections that are happening in the room around her were happening to me while I was in these kinds of awake asleep states. This went on for a little while and then just stopped. And then after that, every time I started to get sleep paralysis, I'd be like, this is boring. I know this. And then it'd just go away.
Okay, so animation is actually, yeah, it's a cure for many things, for many ails. Qian, what about Wastopia? Could you talk a bit about how that came about? I mean, eco-anxiety, I think we can all relate to this one.
Yeah, so hi. Wastopia is my graduation film when I was studying Royal College of Arts in 2020. And the starting point is actually quite personal. In the early 2020, I was living alone in my own apartment, and I had very complicated feeling about food. So I was in a diet, and I couldn't help going to the supermarkets, just like browsing at all kind of food, and I usually bought all of them and brought them back home. But somehow I couldn't finish them by myself, so I had to throw them away eventually, and it made me feel really guilty. And it made me realize how little concern I had about the food waste, which made me starting to research about the food waste, and also, like noting, about like the overproduction and like the damaging mentalities of the overconsumption. And then just which is bringing me like designing the whole Wastopia world. I wanted to design it like very, like kind of memorable visual language. So I made this very candy color world alongside with like very playful characters. I I was trying to creating like kind of unique, sarcastic atmosphere to like accompany the topic of climate change, and yeah, like I hope it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Lauren.
Probably quite similar to you guys, really. Just a bit of personal eco-anxiety, a bit of personal mental illness. I just wanted to make this film, I guess, about people who are a little bit weird and a little bit mad, and how we all kind of need each other in the end. And when you create that network of people who all kind of get it and are just as weird as each other, then it's kind of comforting. That's the kind of sense that I wanted to get at the end of the film. But yeah, it's funny because I wrote it over like years, maybe, just chipped away at it kind of thing. I was just writing little bits down. So I kind of started writing it 2016, and like the world was way less apocalyptic in 2016. It's got way worse since then. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, it must be quite different. You must get different reactions to it now, post-pandemic, this kind of, you know, the illness, the body worries. I love all that fatality stuff on screen.
Well, all the headlines on the wall, it's so funny how many of them, like, just kind of came true, like, to the point where I'm concerned that I brought it about.
So when is the world ending, Lauren?
I can't disclose it here, but come and talk to me after.
And Suraya?
Yeah, so mine was a graduation film at the National Film and Television School. I don't know why, but I've got an obsession in a way, and a lot of my ideas are kind of around the way we think and how we behave that can be a bit absurd. I've also worked in mental health and with OCD and things. And I find it really interesting that we all experience like intrusive thoughts, but OCD is kind of a much more extreme version of that, where you might think you're going to act on these thoughts. So yeah, that was my idea for that, and I like the idea of showing how we think, but then how intense it can be for someone. Yeah.
Yeah, and a bit like Carla, it's that making it on that large scale, like, so you've got the little models, but then you kind of come out into these kind of room-size human, like when you actually, like the stuff with the cat, it's just like those sort of choices you made. Was that based on like people's experiences, or?
Yeah, and also, although I haven't had OCD itself, but just, you know, the little things I used to do, like hide the sharp knives underneath like all the things in the drawer so that I wouldn't like sleepwalk and kill all my housemates. But I knew I wasn't going to do that, but I still had to hide them. So it's kind of based on my own thoughts and other people's. And when I talked about the idea, people were just like really enthusiastic about telling me what urges they have and things. Yeah.
Very cool. I like this. This is a very open panel, isn't it? We're getting to learn about everyone's mental illnesses tonight. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Do you get a roving mic?
Sorry, just to blurt out. Does that get Jesus Christ? Does that get tiresome when people just come and tell you about their emotions in that way, or? And also,
no.
when you hide the knives, how do you know that you won't? I mean, it's you who's hidden them, so wouldn't you know where you hid them?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I'm not trying to catch you out. I'm just trying to.
That's part of the thing as well. I used to think, what if I swallow my tongue, and then I'd be like, oh, now you're thinking about it. Now you definitely will. So you have to try and distract yourself. And like, I don't have OCD. I think like when I talk to people, a lot of people have thoughts like this, random things like pushing someone in front of a tube and different, you know, just random things. But yeah, I think that's part of the problem. The more you think about it, if you obsess about it, then the more anxious you get that you might do it. Yeah.
Was it challenging for, you know, as you've talked about your personal relationships to these films, like, was it actually quite challenging, you know, making animation, years doing this, thinking about this work? I mean, obviously you cured yourself, so you have a happy ending to this. But did you find it, I mean, how did you sort of cope with it? What kind of mechanisms did you put in place to kind of look after yourself and your mental health and other people's? Or was it before the time we thought about those kind of things?
For me, it really was. This was in 2013, and I mean, it was shocking actually how little safeguarding I did on this project, like in terms of thinking about what I was doing or telling anyone else what I was doing. It's definite. I definitely wouldn't do it this way again, and I don't think anybody would be able to do it this way again in any kind of a formal setting. And I think that's really good.
What would you do differently now, do you think?
I mean, that's a very, very long list, but just, you know, most of all the things that are out there about how to deal with documentary participants when you're dealing with a sensitive topic.
And you've done a PhD on it, haven't you? So you've done some extensive research. What about other people? How did you look after yourselves?
I wasn't a subject matter for me that was quite cathartic. And the writing process was quite cathartic. It's more when you get to the animation stage and that's real kind of grinding. But I was trying to like set up a festival and stuff at the same time. That's what I'd advise people against doing probably. Oh, also I need to shout out my composers here too, Phil Brooks. Woo!
The two composers together. Suraya?
It wasn't really an issue for me. Because it wasn't something that affects me personally. Yeah, I guess when I talked to other people about it, I just needed to be aware that things are not necessarily like, you know, fascinating and something to talk about in that way, and that they are things that are quite serious. But I've worked in mental health and stuff like that, so used to talking to people about things that affect them. Yeah. So it's all right.
Gina, have you got anything to add?
I don't feel like it's an issue for me either, because it's kind of like it's not really a personal, like about personal situation in the film. So it's more about like about the climate change and like about the anxiety. So I mean, it does bring me more anxiety, like when I was making the film, and definitely not wasting food anymore.
That's good. Any more questions? No? Well, seeing as we've got composers... Oh, hang on. All right. No, go.
We might be asking the same question. I was just struck by how important the music was in so many of the films, or seemed to be, and I think it's a question about chicken and egg. And I'm sure you compose music to animation, but do you also animate to music that's being composed? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
In my case, I was very lucky because Dominic got on board pretty much as soon as the project started, and I could share all my research with him. So as I was sharing research and references, he was coming up with stuff, sending stuff to me. I'd be trying it out. I'd be making little tests, and it was a real collaging process. And then often stuff, I'd send him loads of music references. Be like, yeah, I want something industrial, these kind of electric sounds. He'd send me back some doo-wop, and it would work so much better. You know, so there was this really lovely dialogue with it that went on for the whole production and post-production process. But I think that that's a massive luxury. I think you're right. You can't often work like that.
I do like the fact that you chose that really nice, playful, light-hearted ending after like the kind of the doomy experiences people have gone through.
I'm trying to remember now when you came on board, Phil. Was it quite early as well? I feel like it's like animatic phase. Was there? So, because I didn't get to the point where I was like in love with the scratch music, which I think is important, because you can kind of fall in love with it, can't you, if it stays around too long. So that was good. But yeah, / working with Phil, I remember being like, Phil, there's got to be like a death metal like track in this. Like, is that going to be all right? And Phil was like, oh yeah, I used to be the lead singer of a death metal band, so that's going to be fine. I was like, yes, I've chosen the right person. Yeah, that's when I knew.
Yeah, it was similar. We started, had loads of references really early on, and we started putting in music into the animatic, so before we shot anything. But yeah, it didn't really get finalised right till the end. Yeah, after we shot it all and edited, but there was always parts there of how it was going to be.
Could you say something about the sound design as well, like the visceral sound design when you show the really gory stuff?
Yeah, so the sound design, like a lot of the references I had for the composer and the sound designer were sort of, where does one start and one, they were kind of quite merged, and sometimes people thought something was sound design when it was the composer and vice versa. But the references, what we did was with the editor, we found a lot of things for the sound and sort of made a template in the animatic that the sound designer could use to replace with all his work. And I wanted like the sound throughout it to feel like quite domestic, but very sort of like soft and fluffy, so comfortable. And then the sounds for like Layla's visions, they're much more harsh and grating to kind of, or like, much more like to contrast with that. And then just before she kind of has the visions, we cut out all the ambient sound and put in like breath type sound. The idea was that you start to like think that something's going to happen as you get used to that through the film.
Thank you. Qian?
So I actually think my cooperation way with my composer is quite a bit freestyle. It's kind of like we don't even have the animatic yet, and I just sent him Andy. I sent Andy a brief about like including some keywords like atmospheric and like something like that, like surrealist, like something like that. And then I attach like few samples, like some reference. Basically, I remember what I told him, just do whatever he want to, and then I just like edit it afterwards. So I kind of re-edit it a bit, like so it can fit into my final pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, it really complements it. It's really bleak.
But thank you.
And surreal.
And I think also because it was kind of like pandemic time, so we were seeing each other, like we met once, and then later on we are kind of like we are all like busy with our own stuff. So I think he only made the music just for one go, and then that's it. And then the rest of the work I just re-edited it. Yeah.
Good stuff. Any more questions? Look now, people want to talk.
Hi, congratulations for the films. I wanted to ask, which advice would you give to anyone that wants to create art surrounding these sensitive topics, political topics, etc.?
It's a great question. Who wants to start?
I mean, I'd just say dive in. Be careful who you surround yourself with at early stages, but don't censor yourself at early stages. Get a few trusted people who you can bounce things off, and then get a few people who have a good sense of how other people, if you're working with politically sensitive topics, how other people in wider circles might respond, so you're prepared for that. But when it comes to the actual making, just kind of be making in response to your research and just using every language that you have initially.
I just think say what you want to say, whatever the message is, and don't worry too much about it.
Anyone else?
I don't know if I've got much to add to that. That's probably the same advice I give. I think on team is really important. Like, you have to have the right people around you. There's going to be anything in the film, like in the content of it, that might be quite difficult. Then like make the process as easy as you can with like a nice team that you're fairly confident you'll get on with for like years. Yeah.
I'm agree. Just do it. Just do it fast, and then you'll see.
Another question?
I wanted to ask, do you feel like for each of you, like through making the film, you like got an increased understanding of yourselves and the world that you wouldn't have been able to get without having made the films?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely through the writing of it as well. It's making me want to write like another film, but then never make it because that was the painful bit.
Give it to someone else to make, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like working with people as well on something that you feel really strongly about. Yeah, that was really good.
Get it out of your head and and get it made. Anyone else? I feel like there was another hand. There we go. Last question, maybe.
I saw in some of the animations that there was like live action elements, and I wanted to know, was that like planned early on, or did that come about through the creative process that you felt like that need to be incorporated?
That's really your film, is it, Suraya?
Yeah, yeah. In mine, I knew pretty early on that it was going to be live action sequences for the thoughts. The other part is with the cat. My producer really didn't want me to have a real cat because she doesn't like them. Yeah, and I know someone else who was on the same course as me had a cat in her film, and it was actually really difficult to get the shots she wanted. So I had a friend make a really amazing cat puppet. It looked so real that her cat started, the more she worked on it, her cat started getting jealous and attacking it, and she had to like hide it. And then I had someone who's a really good puppeteer come and do some work with it on a live action set. And there were one or two shots that are the puppet, but it didn't really get what I wanted. So in the end, we used shots of a cat which weren't like, we hadn't got the cat to act. It was more like just shots of a cat moving, and the way we edited it together. I think people on my team didn't really know what it was going to be, but my editor was like really great, so she was like, let's just do some tests, and then it was like what I wanted. So that was going to be live action, and then it was puppet, and then it ended up being a mix.
For mine, I started out from a point of not wanting to take any possible method off the table of expressing this thing that I was exploring, because the thing was so specific, which may have been foolish. But so I was kind of working with 2D and 3D and stop motion and projections and live action, and then those sort of started to filter down to some that were just not working at all, and some that seemed to be working better. But it became really important as I developed the structure of the film, though that working with different techniques became really important, because the film increasingly became about moving between different layers of perceived reality, and also about false awakenings, and that sense that you have when you think you're awake. You think that you think you're awake, and then you wake up, and then you think you're awake, and then you wake up, and then the world has a completely different quality, and you think, well, how could I have possibly thought I was awake before, because it wasn't the same, and then you wake up again. I wanted to try and capture something of that in the essence, and the techniques became kind of a clear way to do that.
Did you build a set, and was that kind of was that part of the installation, that kind of room?
Yeah, so the bedroom where we see the live action women first was my bedroom, and then I built a micro version of that with a stop motion puppet in, and then we projection mapped CG, physically projection mapped, not digital, not on the computer. So I've got a projector and projection mapped a CG map into that I'd collaborated with the company on, and knocked that on frame by frame while I was animating the stop motion puppet. And then
Just to make it easy for
yeah,
yourself.
and then also we did another shoot, which was just a day shoot in a studio at the uni, where I just got the same bed and put it in a big room to kind of create a sense of the same space, but in a different space. So it just kind of, I mean, I don't know how much, it's really hard to know when you've made something like that, how much of it comes through, but I just wanted to create something that felt kind of disconcerting and unsettling, and like you're never quite sure what space you were in or what the real space was, you know, and when you're moving away from reality, because none of it really was.
Yeah, no, you've definitely done that. I love all the the sort of hand shadow stuff as well. It's really creepy. Congratulations. Final question. Final question. There we go.
Hello. Thank you very much for, firstly, all your incredible films. I really enjoyed that screening. I wanted to ask a question to Suraya about your film, and we've kind of touched on it already about the use of live action, which is clearly a choice that you've made to use that over an animated look. I personally, I'm quite very affected by those images. I find them very kind of shocking, and at times I have found it hard to watch, and I find them almost quite traumatic even. So I was interested to know why you decided that that level of shock was necessary, and if that is to do with sort of your purpose of your film. Were you intending for the audience to kind of live the experience of these of the subject that you're talking about?
Yeah, it wasn't really that I was thinking shock. It was more that I wanted it to firstly like represent, however I could maybe represent the truth of like the experience, like how it feels, and also with the like stop motion animation, that's quite a contrast to like when it's live action, where it's kind of sharp, like fast, slick sort of movements. It kind of added to that contrast, and it also was quite clear that they were her thoughts, so there wouldn't be any sort of confusion. But yeah, it just felt to me that that would be more representative. Like it would give that feeling that I just thought it would give that feeling of what it's actually like having those fleeting thoughts in your head. Yeah, I don't know if I've answered all your question.
I think you did answer the question. I'm going to just say you answered it really well. Thank you.
Thanks.
So I think, we're just going to wrap it up now. If you can all just maybe say where people can find you, what you're up to, some kind of little plug. This is your opportunity. Suraya, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm not really on social media that much. My work's on like Vimeo. Yeah, but like I am on social media. I'm just not on it very much. At the moment, I'm just writing and developing new ideas at the moment. Sorry if it was traumatic for you as well.
I'm on this things, Lauren Orme Films, and Pickle Animation is my little animation production studio. And I run Cardiff Animation Festival as well. If any of you ever find yourselves in Cardiff, that's in April, late April this year. Next year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can find me on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere, like website. And I'm about to start making.
We're going to announce it soon, but we're working together on a film. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're about to start making it, which is very excited.
Yeah, I'm also ostensibly on Instagram. I occasionally use it in sort of fits and bursts. But I've got really exciting stuff that's just going on. Some just about to come out. So just watch this space on Instagram. It's going to just blow your mind.
Very good. I think we'll leave it there. That was really good hype. We had good hype there. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.